Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
I'm Ben Matlock. And we're here.
Yeah, you are.
We're both here at the same time.
Physically, at least.
It's fucking crazy. Oh, how hard would this show be to do if we recorded our audio each separately, a day apart?
That would be fun, though. You'd have to try to guess how much time the other person would need to respond to what you say, and then also try to guess how they...
Well, a little behind the scenes, if audio gets desynced even by, a tenth of a second, it's a fucking nightmare to correct on a full episode. So, yeah, if we should try it when we really don't give a shit to see what happens, I won't even, it'll be like performance art. I won't even try to correct it. It'll be just...
Or we just do that thing, we'd only get to release an episode a year, but they do it with stories a lot where you record a sentence and send it to me, and then I add to it by with my response and send it back to you, and we just go back and forth.
Just that one word improv thing where it's I am a baker in hell. That's where all my improv and drama class always went to. It's I am in hell.
I got kicked out of my improv class because you sit down and they said the first rule of improv is never say no, and I told them no, and they said get the fuck out. It's not even funny.
I was a really, I know, hard to believe, but I was a really douchey kid in high school. So I was really mopey and miserable, and I like everyone. I didn't want to be there, but I always let people know it with my demeanor. And I was taking drama, and I was kind of in a weird spot with that class where, I actually liked acting, and we did a stage show, and I actually enjoyed that part of it. But all the, acting exercises and improv, fucking hated it. I thought it was the stupidest shit ever, and I was very uncooperative.
Especially at that level. And the problem with this class is it's a mix of people. Usually in those kind of classes in high school, it's kids that at least kind of want to do that stuff. Yeah. But you're all there to varying degrees of engagement.
Yeah.
So
well, I understand it now a little bit more. You need that. If you're actually trying to train and cultivate people into acting, you need to loosen them up, and they need to be able to kind of go all over the place like that. But at the time, I was a really fucking snobby, I was just look, if we're not doing Richard III, go fuck yourself, okay? that was my mentality. And honestly, if I were, to try acting now, I would still feel the same way, where I'd be look, it's not Whose Line, you're not as funny, so what are we doing here? Let's get to work.
I'm picturing some, hippy dippy artsy drama teacher coming around to class.
She was so fucking nice. She did everything she could to try to get me to pass her class, getting me a D, because I just would not participate. I was such a
look, Ben. If you pick your pencil up and pretend to try to answer this question, I'll pass you. And you're no, fuck you.
It was literally that shit. On the last day, she pulled me to the side and she was like, if you don't even just read a monologue, if you don't, I can't even give you a D. And I was like, fuck, fine, screw it. And I read some shit, and I got a D, which was enough for points.
Oh, I was hoping you say, and I got a standing ovation and my life changed forever.
No, people, it was really encouraging, but I was such a shithead, I didn't appreciate it at the time. The teacher was the first time I had to participate and read something, apparently I did a really good job, and she was like, holy shit, this kid can act. But it was also just that thing, I would only act what I wanted to, or when it mattered, when we did an actual show. So
you were just already the prima donna actor just before you even...
Total arrogant fuck. Just... knew that I could do it, but refused to until... And it was one of those things where it was we would be rehearsing and I would be half given a shit. And then on the night of the show, it would be like, holy fuck, he actually tried. And
well, where's that energy? I want that energy for this show where you're just like...
Well, I remember my director, the girl who wrote the script I did, she was really attractive. So
Oh, I am not that.
Yeah,
so sorry.
Quit. Let's hire, somebody beautiful, and you watch the energy like just rise.
Well, that's a skill in and of itself, because especially in high school, if you threw an attractive girl into the room, I did not like shine. That's when, like, as dumb as I am,
yeah.
I become dumb and that like stammering nerd cliche. Like,
oh, I was still a really hateable asshole, but I was not so much of a dick that I was going to ruin this girl's. She actually wrote a fucking script. Like, she worked hard on it. Like, I wasn't going to do that to her and sabotage it. Like, I honestly, at that point, I was totally cool failing the class. But then I got roped in there, and then it was like, well, I did an entire goddamn production. I should at least pass the class for it.
I don't know. I didn't do any drama. We had a creative writing class where they would have you like write some skits and stuff. That teacher was really cool. And, I knew her well after high school because she was also one of our clients at my current job. And sadly, she just went in for surgery like 2 months ago and ended up passing away. It was supposed to be a relatively straightforward surgery. So that's how that works. If you have one teacher from like all your school that you're like, I like that teacher, they have to tragically pass away. But anyway, the funny thing is the one friend I had in that class, she actually was in the drama classes and whatnot, and went on to she lives in LA now. She was a stand-up comedian for a while and has done some acting, that kind of stuff. So anytime we did have to put on a group skit, guess who got totally out fucking shy? Anyway,
I had fun doing it, but I never did another drama class. Like, it's that thing. Like, I still kind of like acting and the process of it and the pressure of it. Like, it's pretty fun and frightening to go out there onto a stage and do shit like that, but it's also really exciting.
It's one of those things that I'll say, it's one of the handful of jobs that I always thought would be awesome, but I know that I'm trash at. Yeah. Like, I have that problem where I can't act because as soon as I know I'm acting, I get that like smile on your face, like you're, like I can't stay in character. It's just like funny to me that it's like you're trying to tell a very obvious lie, and you know how you can't keep a straight face. Well, unless you're like a sociopath or something.
That's probably why I'm good at it. I'm a very, I am a legit fucking liar, and I have been my whole life. So playing it straight is not that hard. But yeah, just all the shit around acting, I never hadn't felt motivated to dive back into that world again. Anyway. So this is like the Ben and Steve biography cast. Honestly, we needed to pad it. My topic this week's pretty short. If you haven't listened to the Non-Essential podcast before, we usually ramble for about 10 minutes and then we tell each other stories.
And I like to think the ramble is what sets us apart from all the other podcasts that also ramble. But
I'm good at it. I'm fucking good at it, though, man.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's
not me. I think you're good at it. I think I'm just here interjecting stuff to hear my own voice.
Yeah, I needed somebody to enable me to fucking just tell all my bullshit all the time. And you serve a very important part of it when my topic is like a page and a half long, like it is today. Yeah. But yeah, so let's go back in time, as we usually have to. It would be fun to do one of these stories set in the future, but...
well, I don't know that we've even done present day, because it's just...
I'm going to just narrate what's happening now.
Well, yesterday the mailman came, and he was kind of a... That's the first 10 minutes of the show, is what's happening now.
Yeah.
And then we travel back in time.
Yeah, that's right. And this time we're traveling back to 1858. So now, Steve, you are in 1858. You're in Bradford, England. I don't know why you moved, but you did.
I have tuberculosis and dysentery.
You're packed with cholera. It's October 30th. Halloween is right around the corner. I don't know if they actually celebrate Halloween there.
That was going to be my next question, because I don't know when they started that.
But it's Halloween and you want a tasty sweet, because you certainly wouldn't say something as heinous on Twitter as ice cream is overrated. The fuck is wrong with you? Seriously.
It's ice cream. It's cold milk. It's fine. It's not
there's
gross,
your problem. Somebody just served you cold milk, and that's not what it is.
People act like they would kill their own mother to get a bowl of ice cream, and it's weird to me because, A, it's not like it's a rare treat. You can get fucking ice cream
it's a
anywhere.
Nice treat. There's a huge variety of it. You can go to Cold Stone and mix shit into it. It's a delight to the senses. Unless it's like, peppermint, which we'll get to.
Peppermint can fuck right off. I like rum raisin and everybody else hates it, so maybe that's the problem. But
yeah, you just need more booze in there.
Right.
If it got you tipsy, you'd fuck with anything. I know that about you. So we're in 1858 in Bradford, England, and candy is on the agenda. William Hardacre sold such candies. He was known by the locals as Humbug Billy. He had a stall set up in the Green Market in Bradford. Factory workers lined up to spend their payday wages on his zebra-striped peppermint hard candies, which were called peppermint humbugs, because these factory workers must have hated their kids and bought them the worst fucking candy.
Well, okay. Well, what was this? William
Hardacre.
That's not a terrible last name. And then you have to Billy Humbug or
Humbug
something.
Billy.
Fucking Humbug Billy. What the?
Because his candies were peppermint humbugs.
But why the fuck are they humbugs? Because
they actually looked pretty fucked up. And we cite our sources. I encourage you all to check the links. There's twists and turns to the story, but how these candies are supposed to look are pretty fucked up.
Well, now I finally understand the Ebenezer Scrooge line, bah humbug, because somebody's like, here's the humbug, and he's like, bah.
Any peppermint candy, shit. It's like, I'm not into it. I'll eat pretty much anything because I have a horrible sweet tooth. But I don't fucking like them.
You're like, the whole time you're just like, I hate this fucking shit. Give me another one.
I don't know how much of my diet is like me begrudgingly eating things because I feel I have to.
Because there's sugar in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a handful of things that I don't absolutely abhor, like Lifesavers, the mints. They're perfectly fine, but I don't even really consider those candy because they're mints. I'm not going to sit and eat
I'll just be resentful because they're not the Lifesaver gummies, which are great.
Right. Or even just like the hard fruit Lifesavers, which are way the fuck better than the mint ones.
Somebody's fucking with you when they make shit peppermint,
Or your breath is really bad, but they're trying to like be nice about it. Like, oh, here, have this candy.
Then I'd be like, give me a real mint. Like, just give me the medicine, for my shitty, disgusting breath that's full of like rotting teeth because of all the sugar I ate.
So I see you and I are in agreement on mint flavored foods because it's like if I wanted to eat mint, I would just swallow when I brush my teeth. Like,
so basically everybody in this story is going to get what they deserve. No, cool. Not really.
I like
because liking peppermint shouldn't result in this.
I don't know. Fuck it. It's 70 years ago almost. We can
hate them. Right. With a murderous rage. So these,
and they're in England, or you said, right? Yeah. So they can't haunt us from there.
These slimy peppermint bastards.
That's what I'm calling my candy. Limey peppermint bastards.
I love it. So these peppermint bitches are made out of peppermint oil incorporated into a base of sugar and gum. Say what you will about the modern world, but our candy is way better today. Humbug would get his supply of candy from a local wholesale confectioner named Joseph Neal. But during this time, sugar was actually pretty expensive. By 1750, there were 120 sugar refineries operating in Britain that could only produce 30,000 tons of sugar per year. It was called white gold, so wait until these fuckers hear about cocaine. The government tax on sugar was actually pretty massive back then, so a wholesaler like Neal needed to cut some corners, and much like cocaine, that meant cutting the product. Sugar would be mixed with a substance called daft. Daft was a mixture of substances like powdered limestone and plaster of Paris, which was apparently safe to eat, but tasted like shit.
Basically anything that's like powdery and white, so it kind of looks like sugar. They're like, that'll work.
And when you're just mixing white powder, what could go wrong? They probably figured it's going into a peppermint candy anyway, so fuck it. And they didn't
Nobody will eat these.
And they didn't have high standards, yeah. So, about 2 weeks prior to October 30th, 1858, Neal had sent one of his employees to buy 12 pounds of daft from a druggist, which sounds like a really sophisticated addict.
Yeah, that's what you call the guy that just can hook you up with anything, and he knows everything about like his weed. Like he's like, well, do you want a mellow high that's got kind of cherry notes to smoke?
Come to your local druggist and ask him about heroin. Ask him what heroin can do to you. The druggist, Charles Hodgson, was ill that day, however, so the shop was being ran by an inexperienced apprentice, William Goddard. Hodgson did not feel comfortable letting Goddard take this massive order from Neal, but Neal's employee insisted that they just fucking do the transaction. Hodgson instructed Goddard, and the way they tell the story, it makes it sound like Hodgson was on his deathbed and couldn't actually watch what Goddard was doing. But Hodgson instructed Goddard to a large container in the corner of the shop that contained the daft, and Goddard scooped out 12 pounds of powder and gave it to Neal's employee. Unfortunately,
I like where this is going.
Unfortunately, Hodgson and Goddard did not understand that, one, a room can have more than one fucking corner, and this room in particular had more than one fucking container in it. Or maybe it was just that classic bit where something completely harmless was sat next to something very fucking dangerous, and we didn't bother to label the shit. Either way, Goddard scooped Joseph Neal 12 pounds of arsenic trioxide.
Cool.
What could go wrong? The employee...
It tastes better than plaster, though.
Right. The employee then took it to James Appleton, who added all 12 pounds of the arsenic to 40 pounds of lozenge mixture. The exposure...
Jesus Christ. So that's like a quarter of the mixture is arsenic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is... Like, you almost can't even imagine it being an intentional poisoning with that much poison in it involved.
Yeah, no,
you couldn't call it an assassination. It was almost like
I was almost like picturing this stuff as being used as like garnish to almost like bulk it up a little bit, but like, you know how you like dust sugar on the candy? No, that's it's 20% if it's 40 pounds.
It's like a rail of this shit is lethal. Yeah. And they had the whole like mountain of cocaine from Scarface, but it was all arsenic.
Yeah.
So they mixed that into the candy, and the exposure to the arsenic ultimately left Appleton vomiting from what he thought was initially a stomach bug. He was unaware that there was enough poison in every individual candy to kill a grown man. Humbug Billy got his supply, but had to sell these little bastards at a discount because they now looked as bad as they probably tasted. Something was off about the color of this batch of candies. And if you look up like a photo of it, it's not It's obviously 1850. But the way these candies kind of look, they're kind of weird and green and fucked up. So I'm just imagining them just sort of like already kind of sickly looking. Humbug still sold about 5 pounds.
That makes me wonder, like, but that's, I was going to say, that makes me wonder how bad the regulars were when you have these fucked up arsenic ones and people are like, close enough.
Mm-hmm. So, very shortly after, 2 young boys died. Many others began experiencing retching, vomiting, pain, burning of the throat, intense thirst, pain in the abdomen, and diarrhea. At first, it was suspected that the victims had cholera, which was actually very prevalent back then. But as the deaths started to multiply, one father suggested that the deaths of his 2 sons was due to the peppermint lozenges, which I would blame even if the arsenic hadn't been there. If somebody died, I would immediately point to peppermint candy. A young man made himself the guinea pig and ate 2 to test this theory, and naturally got real fucking sick, because you probably didn't need to eat 2.
I was about to say, these might be poison, but I better eat 2 to be sure.
I feel pretty fucking sick, but that could just be me. Let me try another. While doctors tried to help all the people who had now been poisoned, the police came for Humbug Billy and did not find some evil mass poisoner that they thought they would find, but instead found a guy who was also writhing on the floor in agony after eating some of the fucked up candy himself.
Yeah, that's this classic. If you're the dealer, you can't use your own product or you get in trouble every time.
It would be the perfect crime if he did it intentionally, but then ate the candy himself. To be like, no, yeah. I'm blasting ass too. Humbug Billy tried to put the blame on Neil, but the police actually followed this whole trail back to Goddard, who they decided who was really just listening to his dumbass boss, but they were like, no, he should be arrested. He's the murderer. Which technically, yeah.
Yeah.
But so were a lot of people involved in this. So 20 people died and 200 other people got fucking sick. So pretty good sale day for Humbug Billy. Too bad it fucking almost wiped out a town.
Yeah. It's pretty, they say that like no advertising is bad advertising. I disagree with that. When you kill children.
I love that you said that. 'Cause wait till this ends, which we're almost at. Actually, Neil, Hodgson, and Goddard were all charged with manslaughter, but they were all acquitted. Because turns out there was not one existing law against anything that happened in this process.
We're charging you with I can just see him flipping through the book.
Turns out there's nothing wrong with like unintentionally adding poison to a thing that then gets added to candy. Even though you'd think that would be the definition of manslaughter. Or at least, some sort of criminal negligence.
Well, that's where, because it is tricky. We've talked about before too, because then in this stuff they tend to be like, all right, multiple deaths, a death sentence here, I hang them or something. And it's like, well, on the one hand, it was an honest mistake, miscommunication, doling out. On the other, they clearly should test their product.
On the other hand, I'm not the one calling myself a druggist. You should know what powder you're handling. Right. And you shouldn't be making your fucking untrained employee handle very dangerous chemicals.
Right. And then on the third, mutated hand that you have for some reason, you can't just be like, oh, you're bad. It's okay. 'Cause people's children died. Yeah. So it's that is a very awkward situation, to say the least.
Right. Humbug Billy even returned to managing his stall as if nothing happened. You would think don't kill people would be the one rule a candy shop stand would have to have.
Unless you're Willy Wonka, because that's literally
Humbug Billy, the predecessor. of Willy Wonka. But apparently that shit blew over a lot faster back then.
They're like, oh, you killed our children, but man,
I love these.
There's literally
candies.
The thousands of years humanity's been around. Nobody has invented a better candy than these peppermints. So
peppermint arsenics. I would love if there was just somebody like, I feel like shit, but I can't stop eating them. It was that guy who tested them.
Shit, that was me with the bag of like flaming hot Cool Ranch Doritos I bought recently just to try. I was like, man, these things are tearing up my stomach. They're not even good.
Flaming hot
and
Cool
I eat the whole.
I'm gonna have to grab those.
No, they're not very good. I mean, you should.
I'm not like, that's the thing. I can say like, I gotta get them, but it'll be like, I don't mean I'm excited. I mean, I'm a consumer whore.
Yeah. And you'll do what I did. I'm like, man, these are disappointing. I guess I'll just have to eat the whole bag.
I really like the Tapatio ones with queso. That's a pretty good contrast, but it's also like my ultimate, like, give up, quit on life, diabetes, fat food.
Yeah, but that's me every other night. Like one night I'll be like nothing but fresh vegetables and like fruit and, baked chicken breast with no skin and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I'm killing this adult thing. Like, and then the next night it's like, everything sucks. I'm like trying to like count my calories because I've
put on a little bit of weight the last few months and I feel like shit. And it's so hard because they make a clear goal of just like, look, just don't eat 2,000 calories. And I'll like have a day where I eat way under that, which is also bad. And then I try to make up for that and then some the day after.
Which is why going that far under is bad. But it's funny because I'll do that too when I count calories, and it's not like I'm even starving myself. It's just some days you're just not that hungry, and you're like, oh, yeah, I only ate like 800 calories today. That's not good. And
the other day I had 3,000 in pizza alone.
Just for dinner. Yeah. Right.
Oh.
But the great news is, after this week, we all know that if you want to lose weight, all it really takes is one peppermint,
just a little peppermint arsenic pop.
Yeah.
Plop some arsenic into your tongue and blow out your weight out of your ass. The song needs work, but we're working on it with Humbug Billy.
Mad Men was less sophisticated in 1858.
I am the Donald Draper of poison. I've always said that. So just to wrap this up, everybody kind of, everybody lived happily ever after except the 20 people that died. Sugar eventually became more affordable with the abolition of the sugar tax in 1874. And naturally, a few more regulations came about for druggists and pharmacists. Even just one rule that said, keep your fucking poisons in a separate place from your other shit would have probably been a good rule.
That stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the story of the Bradford candy poisonings.
I'm just imagining once sugar became affordable and they didn't have to cut it, trying to explain to your customers why your candy tastes so much fucking better when you've been lying to them about cutting your sugar for so long.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, they invented this new super sugar. It's tastier. Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket.
Sugars.
I've not heard that story, or if I had, I've forgotten it. Although I did look up the pictures of these things, and you're like, oh man, they're so disgusting. They look like the bowl of shit that my grandma always had in her house. So like, if you're old enough, they're not that weird looking because candy was just stupid until very recently.
But I don't really like a lot of hard candy anyway. And that's like the grandparent go-to because you could just dump that shit in a bowl and like
it's 8 years old. It's been sitting open.
Yeah, like if they want it, you don't need teeth to deal with it. You just suck on it. And
while the rest of your family plots your murder because you're slurping on this fucking hard candy for an hour and a half.
You're clacking it around like your one fucking non-denture tooth. I love my grandparents. I don't know why I'm thinking of them that way.
Oh, I did too. But they've all been dead for over almost 2 decades.
I got like one grandma left alive, and she didn't have hard candy like ever. I had a weird relationship with her and food because she swore by her like home cooked meals, but I don't think I ever ate anything of hers. Just it's like she was like, "Oh, you got to try my peach cobbler," and then like I would be there for like visiting for like 2 weeks, and she would never make the peach cobbler.
Never could.
Yeah, we'd always go to like a shitty buffet, which I enjoyed because they had ice cream, Steve.
Buffets suck too sometimes, though. I don't
buffets,
know.
Buffets are terrible, but I love their soft serve machine.
Soft serve, yeah. Now my grandma was on my dad's side was the cliche, like, I think literally all she lived to do was cook and maybe once a week do laundry, like that kind of like leave it to beaver grandma. But she literally would wake up at like 4 a.m. and start making from scratch like everything for breakfast, like the biscuits and gravy and sausage and bacon and eggs and whatever. And so by the time like the normal people woke up at normal people hours, like you just have mountains of fucking food.
Yeah.
And it was all awesome because it was all cooked in like tubs of lard and butter. Like no thought was given to health. It was, it was that Southern, although she wasn't really Southern, but it was that kind of cooking. And then the funny part is once everybody was awake and done eating, they'd clear the table and she'd start fucking working on lunch. And then but lunch was usually not as big of an, she'd, whatever. But then once lunch was done, it felt like immediately she is cooking the giant fucking dinner. Like the food is one of the, I loved my grandma, but the food is one of like the warmest like memories of it. She died when I was like 13. So if you aren't familiar, I'm an old fuck. Like I'll be 40 here in a couple weeks.
Hear still cooking to this day.
Yeah. So my point is, I was young when she died, and it's been a very long time, but that's one of the things I remember about her. There's other things, but the food, like, it's just
nuts to me anytime people have, like, set meals, Like, I have dinner. I'll grab, like, a snack for lunch, but I rarely, like, eat a meal for lunch, and I never have breakfast, which is probably why I'll die at, like, 40.
Yeah.
Because everybody says you should have breakfast, but I just can't choke it down.
There's no scientific basis to that, but I was like that for long. I mean, it started in junior high or so. I literally couldn't eat breakfast. If I ate too soon after waking up, it would make me sick. And for most of my life, I couldn't and just didn't care about breakfast. And then in the last year or so, I eat breakfast maybe a third of the time.
Yeah.
And when I say that too, it's not like I'm just described with her. Like I might have a bowl of oatmeal or some eggs or something. It's not like whatever. But although, don't listen to me for food and nutrition advice because I'm way overweight.
Yeah,
I'm lazy. So
I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. All I know is that there's some Tapatio Doritos and some queso with my name on it. So we're going to wrap up the show here. Thank you all for listening. Don't eat peppermint candies.
They might. Even the ones that aren't poisoned are poison.
Yeah. That's the thing. The guy who like guinea pigged them was like, the ones he got were normal, and he probably got really sick just from having two.
Well, that's why it took them so long to realize they were laced with arsenic, is because like on a normal Friday you'd still have 12 kids die, and they're like, well, that's normal, it's peppermint. And then when 20 died, they're like,
that's a good point. It would take me a long time to figure out that the candy made me sick or like that there was poison involved, because I would just assume it made me feel shitty because it's like that's my default.
Peppermint hard candy, yeah.
I got from some dude named Humbug. Like, what did I think was going to happen? So, anyway. Thanks for listening. See, I'm running out of ways to say goodbye.